in the class, our professor has a grading policy about attendance. So if you miss 4 days of class, you have he takes 5% of your grade automatically off.
So if you're late 4 days in class.
No, if you're just not there.
Oh, if you're not there 4 days in class, he goes to your final grade and takes off 5%.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you miss like 8 days? Is that 10%?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So every 4 days you're out, he takes off 5.
Or I think it's like every additional day is another 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's like really strict about it. So then, he comes outside and is talking to me and one of my friends because we were waiting for class to start. After putting his bag and stuff down, and he's like cracking jokes every now and then. And then, so we have an elevator right before when you're walking up, right, to the class. And then on that floor, right outside class, there's like a couple of desks for studying and stuff. So we're sitting here talking to the professor, and this one student who has only been to 2 classes, so she's already missed 4 days of class. Okay. She walks up the stairs, and everyone looks at her. Or me, my friends, and the professor.
It's like a nice big inside joke. And this girl doesn't come to class.
And then the professor, you can't really hear him say, but I can tell. Like, he said it. He's like, Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And then, so he's like, okay, so I'll see you guys in class. So he was like, hey, he was talking to her, and right outside class, he was saying, do you understand that you haven't been here for 4 classes? You've missed 2/3 of the class already. And now you're showing up for the exam. He's like, are you sure you're ready for this? And he's like, because I don't accept when students don't show up to classes. He said it's unfair to yourself and it's unfair to me.
Oh,
it's just disrespectful. So when we're in class and we take the exam, and then he's like, I just want to tell you guys who've been here in class, I really appreciate you guys in class being prepared and everything, and we're very responsible.
This guy has an ego on him, I think.
Yeah. And then he starts asking. So the test is at the very end. It was a short quiz.
Okay.
The class is an hour and some long.
Okay.
So we're talking, and every single time he mentions something, so he picks some random kids, but every single time he would target this one student and asking the one girl who hasn't showed up to class at all. And he kept on asking her questions that would seem simple because he mentioned it a lot in the last class. And then he's like, and then right before she would say something, I don't know or something, he would be like, of course you don't know because we only talked about it in class. So the whole time, he was throwing so much shade.
Is there a textbook she could have read to keep up at home?
Yeah, there is a textbook.
So not only did she not come to class,
she doesn't have a textbook, and so at Temple, all the work is done through Canvas.
Yeah.
So we have assignments, and the one day she showed up to class before that, and this is the one time she's ever taught, right? She'll be taught. So he was like, okay, everyone do their assignments. We had to do 4 readings, and you had to do a brief for it, a summary. So she's like, 4?
Oh,
really?
Wow.
And that was the only thing she said. And every single time only 2 times already. So because that was her second class, her third class. And she's every single time she has her AirPods in.
Oh, okay.
And she doesn't take them off, and the professor gets so mad and is like, take off your earbuds. Every single time. And that makes me think, honestly, if I was a professor, I'd be like that.
Really? I'd be the opposite.
I hate when people are
really?
It's just kind of disrespectful. You're having a conversation with them, and they keep their AirPods in. And then, have you ever said hi to someone, and they just don't answer back? And you can't tell because of their AirPods in.
But are they paying me thousands of dollars?
True.
See, here's what I don't understand. I don't understand how we're paying thousands of dollars to sit in a class and be berated because we're not listening. This isn't high school anymore. I mean, it's not your job to make sure I'm in the class on time and I'm studying the right way. If I fail, I fail.
Well, here's the thing. It's kind of similar to high school where if they have bad grades or they fail out of it, the professors get in trouble for it.
Okay, well then the professor should make sure the class is interesting and people would show up.
Well, no. Some people just... Okay, so not everyone's going to show up to class.
Okay, but here's my argument. If I'm a student and I can pass the class without showing up, then, well, maybe the class isn't needed. And that's not my fault. That's the teacher's fault.
Well, if you don't show up to class, maybe he isn't. Okay, so look at this way, right? If he feels he's necessary for the class, right? Because he is his profession is within that subject.
Yeah.
Right? Should I mention the subject?
Yeah, I guess so.
So, okay, so the class is legal studies.
Okay.
And the professor in it is he's a lawyer.
Okay.
So he has all this background knowledge in law, and he was, like, giving us, like, tips, and, like, he was, like, telling us things that, you know, we should know going into law that isn't in the textbook. Because there are teachers that, you know, don't have careers, and they're giving you advice that doesn't make any sense because they have no experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if you have the book, you know, the book's not going to give you exact answers that make sense to your own knowledge, right? So if you have no experience in terms of, like, you know, statutes or, like, you know, who has the burden of proof or anything like that, if you have no clue what that is, the book's not going to tell you. But if you're, like, talking to the professor and he can give you an example from his own experience, you know, it shows you different. And through those stories, you can be like, so this is how I was answering in the test too. Like, I was like, you know, thinking whenever we go through like a definition or something, I would think about, okay, what was the story that he shared in class that, that, like, and it would be like he would like share like these crazy stories or crazy cases that he took part in, like big cases and stuff like that. Like this, like for example, there was like a dog who like chewed off the face of this one child. Okay. So, like, he'll tell us those stories and we can understand, like, how they relate to the cases. So, if you're not showing up in class, and keep in mind, he, like, when he wasn't, like, paying attention, and as soon as I put in my test, I saw everyone who put in their exam and everything. Like, she definitely didn't do too good. She definitely did not.
Okay, well, that's on her. That's on her. That's just one example. I've been in classes before where I'm just sitting in them, and I realized, you know, an hour into the class, I realized, I really didn't have to be here for that whole hour. I learned nothing. I could have just read the textbook. And I don't think it's fair that teachers can have these absence policies. I think as long as I can pass the tests, I don't think it matters whether I'm in the class.
So my question is,
maybe if it was like a discussion-based class, then
well, it kind of is, because the whole point of it is we read these cases and then we debate over it, and through the discussion we like figure out terms and stuff.
Yeah, I understand why he would be upset, but I just don't...
I feel like there's some classes that don't need it and some classes that do.
I mean, my teacher made the argument that if you can't come to class, then take an online class. And I get that, but it's still his job to make the class worth going to. I mean, if I'm sitting in the class and I realize I don't have to be here, I could have been at work.
Yeah.
Well, then I should have the personal responsibility of deciding, well, I should go to work next time instead of be in class, not be penalized for that.
My question is, how are you supposed to understand if this class is interesting or not if you've only been to a third?
If you've only been to a third?
Of the whole class. You've only been to a third of the class.
Well, you know, hopefully you give it a chance. I don't know if this girl gave it a chance.
That's what I'm saying. Like, she just shows up there and, like, doesn't do anything. And this is one of those professors that, like, expects participation. Like, it says on the, like, he said specifically, he's like, okay, these are the terms and conditions of this class. If you don't like it, you could drop this class. Like, you have full opportunity to, and I'm not going to judge you for it, right?
Yeah.
So, and he, like, gave us, like, 2 classes where we can debate or we can talk about, because part of law is interpretation, right? So, his whole thing is, so I will let you argue with me about some of, like, the absences policies or any of the policies, and you can say, I want that changed. I don't agree with that. If you give me a reason why, I'll change it. Right?
Okay.
So she doesn't show up for any of those days. So she has no clue what the syllabus is. The one class she shows up to, she didn't do any of the assignments. And for the first 3 days of that class, we discuss common law versus what was it? Like statutes, right?
Yeah.
And I won't go too much into it. Basically, common laws are basically made from precedents set by judges, and statutes are legislator created. So created by the government. So honestly, once after that, you're good to go. You understand it. So we were talking about it, and he brings up the simple terms like, okay, so this case is revolved around a statute. And she's like, What's a stat sheet?
All right, so this girl's just in the wrong class, and she's also not reading at home. So that's just probably a girl that's going to drop out at some point, I think.
But here's the thing: you at Temple, you're given 2 weeks to drop out, and if you don't, then if you drop out after, it actually affects your grades.
Can't the teacher force you out too by like midterm? If you're not showing up to class,
I don't know how it works.
Well,
because that's never happened at Temple.
All right, so but you're on the teacher side.
I think so. I think if you don't care about the class, why even go to school? I just feel like you should just
to get the degree that says you can work.
But if you aren't paying attention in class and you fail the exams and stuff like that, now you're just
if you're failing. But I think it's entirely possible to not go to a class, read at home. Maybe if the teacher publishes a review guide.
The participation is a huge part of that grade.
Then I understand that part. Well, then let her fail the participation part. Why does there have to be an absence, an additional absence to get her too? It just feels like this teacher has a big ego. Because, you say that he has all this...
He definitely has one. I'm not saying
if he has all this knowledge to share with the class, he should share it. He shouldn't be spending time berating this girl for no reason when she has her AirPods in, can't even listen. Like, come on. That's just silly.
I just thought it was funny.
It is funny.
And, I would be fuming. I'd be like, why am I spending this time, helping these students? And she comes in acting like... And she's very, she has, an attitude.
Yeah.
When she's when she asks questions, she answers them with attitude.
Yeah, she's just a problem student. I get it.
So I would get mad at that.
Yeah. So I get it.